You want to set up real-time connections between users of your .NET MAUI app, or maybe even your web app and all kinds of platforms? Check out this video on how to get started with SignalR and .NET MAUI. So for those of you who are unfamiliar what SignalR exactly is, it is a framework that has been created by Microsoft, and more specifically the ASP.NET team, which is a layer on top of WebSockets and I think a couple of other technologies as well, which allow you to create real-time connections between servers and clients and other clients, and you can do all kinds of amazing stuff with it. So think of like you're collaborating with someone on a document in Microsoft Word. You can collaborate together these days. That could be very well powered. I don't know exactly if it is, maybe. That could be very well powered by a SignalR connection. Same thing for like a simple chat application, right? Where you see the chat messages popping up. You could definitely do that with a SignalR connection. Or like my good friend Sean, who has been creating a .NET MAUI game with air hockey, and he makes sure that the paddles are in sync, and because you're doing multiplayer, it's in sync, and that's be kept in sync with SignalR. So that is really, really cool. Now, SignalR works based on hubs. So you're going to connect to a hub, which can be hosted in a ASP.NET application. So you can create your own web server application, or there is an Azure service that can do that for you as well, which makes it even easier to set this up. But, you know, I want you to know what's going on under the hood. So we're going to create that ASP.NET Core web hosting application ourselves first, but feel free to leave down in the comments whenever something is not clear about SignalR, this ASP.NET thing. Maybe you want to see the SignalR service in Azure. Let me know down in the comments and I'll make a video on that. But for now, let's just hop into Visual Studio and see what this is all about. All right, so here we've hopped into my screen share, and you can see I've put up Visual Studio 2022, and I created a file new .NET MAUI application. The .NET MAUI application hasn't changed one bit yet, but I did add a little ASP.NET Core project to the solution yet, so you can see that right here in our Solution Explorer. And I added some code in that already so that you don't have to watch this lengthy video, do all the things. But again, if you want to know in more detail how I set up the server and what it all exactly is, please let me know down in the comments. I'll walk you through it very, very quickly. So what you want to do, actually SignalR, the package is already in there by default, so you don't need to do anything for that. You want to go to the program.cs, and here in this builder, I added a couple of comments which are marked with Gerald, so you can see what has been going on. We want to enable the SignalR functionality, and you can just say builder, so that's the generic host builder that we now also know in .NET MAUI, .services.add SignalR, and boom, the functionality is enabled. But you need to do this to enable it. Now, if we scroll down a little bit, you will see here another Gerald comment. And I moved this line. This line is actually here down on line 23 typically, or 24, somewhere around there, but outside of this if, which makes sure that you do the use HTTPS redirection, which is something that you totally want to use. You want to use HTTPS, but if you're developing locally with your .NET MAUI application, this might cause some issues. So I've set this to if is development, or not if is development. So whenever you're running in production, then this is definitely still going to happen. But for our development environment, we're going to skip this for a little bit. And here I'm doing actually a SignalR thing again, where I say, hey, app.map hub. So here is that hub thing that I mentioned earlier. And we're going to look at that chat hub object. You want to specify what hub you want to use, and you can have multiple ones for multiple things. And here you have to specify the endpoint is going to map to. So whenever we are running this server application, you can go to /chat, so www.myawesomechatapplication.com/chat, and that will be the endpoint where you can reach this hub and actually invoke functionality. So that's really cool. Now let's have a look at that chat hub. Here it is. It's very simple. It inherits from a hub, which is something that's provided by SignalR. And here we have this async task send message. Now send message is an endpoint that we can then reach. So basically it will come down to probably /chat/send message. I don't know how it works under the covers exactly. We don't need to worry about that. We'll see that in a minute. And here we can specify parameters. We can just put those in here. We can have multiple parameters. It can be complex objects. SignalR will take care of the serialization for us. No no worries. But in this case, we just have a simple string that we're going to send. We're going to print that out on the console for the server, and we're going to do await clients.all. So we're just going to broadcast this to all clients. You can also make groups of clients and have separate IDs and things. You can totally do that, but we're going to broadcast this to all clients, and we're going to send a sync, a message received. And a message received, basically, that's something that you can hook into. It's an event, if you will. You can say, hey, whenever message received is when you're listening to that for your client, then you want to trigger some logic in your client, right? And we're going to provide that same message. So basically, whenever a message comes in from one client, we're going to broadcast that to all the other clients. That's what we're going to see. Now, one other thing here for the server is inside of our properties, we have these launch settings, and you can see here, typically whenever you start a new project, it says localhost here, but you want to make that 0.0.0.0 so that it listens on all IP addresses, and make note that you have an HTTPS endpoint and an HTTP endpoint. You want to use the HTTP endpoint probably. We'll get into why in a little bit, but just use that one for now. Again, in your development environment, because you want to use HTTPS whenever you go to production. Now, that is our little server thing. Now, let's switch over to our .NET MAUI application. So like I said, this is just a plain .NET MAUI application. I didn't change a thing yet. This is just a waving.NET mod template that you're seeing here. So let's implement some things. Actually, let's start with the code behind. Well, no, let's start with the UI. Let's start with the UI. That's easier. So I'm going to get rid of this image. I'm going to reuse a couple of the template things right here. Get rid of this image. The label, I don't need the text, but I'm going to give this a name. And this is going to be our chat messages. So let's make this chat messages. And I'm going to remove this little accessibility thing here because it's not really useful. Let's make the font size, let's make it 18, a little bit smaller. And this second label is going to be an entry now, because for a chat, we need a label where we're going to see all the chat messages, and we're going to have an entry where we can actually type our own message. So let's do the entry. Again, don't need a text here. Let's just make this X name is my chat message. And again, no accessibility stuff here. We don't really need that. The font size can be the same. And let's add a little placeholder here so that we know where we can type our message. Type your message. Okay, there we are. And this button is going to be our, well, let's name this, we don't really need the name, but send button. And the text is going to be sent, so that we are going to send our actual application. Let's remove this accessibility thing. The clicked is still going to be on counter clicked, fine by me. So let's go to the code behind. So in our Solution Explorer, I'm going to click this main page.xaml.cs. We don't need this count anymore, and we're going to replace this body of on counter clicked. So let's remove that. And what we need to do is now actually set up our connection to that hub. Now there is, depending on how you architected your application, different ways and different places where you want to set up that connection. For now, I'm just going to focus on this one page. You can do this through like dependency injection, all kinds of services, do all kinds of crazy stuff, but I'm going to do it here for just this page. You can figure out the rest. You're a smart person, you can do it. So let's see at a couple of things. Actually, the first thing I need to do is right click on our MAUI project and say manage NuGet packages, and I want to install the SignalR.client, because we are going to use this NuGet package for our convenience. So we have this Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.SignalR.client, latest stable version at the time of recording 606. So let's just install that. It will install a couple of other dependencies as well. Let's just click OK, read the agreement here, I accept, and it's going to install that NuGet on our project. And once it's done, we can go back here and we're going to instantiate a new field here, and we're going to say private, and we can make that read only. I'm going to only access it in the constructor hub connection. So here you can see this is a thing from SignalR, and we can just name this connection. Doesn't really matter what it is. So I would think that the NuGet package should be installed right now. we're going to have to import this using. So using Microsoft ASP.NET Core SignalR client, it's going to add that using here at the top. And now boom, we have this connection that we can use. So let's actually do something with that. Here in our main page, I'm going to fill that connection with connection is new hub connection builder. So again, there's this builder pattern that we can use, and we can say dot with URL. And the URL is something, again, something that's going to be different in production and whenever you're developing. But this is something that you can look up. So for me, it's going to be HTTP. So node HTTP or HTTPS, that's something that you want to take care of. 192.168.1.85, and in my case it's going to be 5296. So if we go back to these launch settings right here, you can find the port right here that might be different whenever you set up a new project for you, so be aware of that. So we want to do that one, and if you don't know where to find your IP address, just go here to view, and you can open a terminal. You can open another terminal if you want as well on your Windows machine, and you can do IP config, and it will print out all kinds of information about your network. And you probably want to have like your, I don't know, your Ethernet adapter or something, and it's going to be here IPv4 address, and that's the IP address that you want to use. So that's how you can find that. So make sure to use that one. And then we're going to say build. So you have other options here for the connection hub builder. You have all kinds of other methods like automatic retry and all kinds of other options. We're not going to focus on that right now. I just want to say this is the URL, build that connection, and we have this connection ready to go. We do need to connect to it manually, and we'll see that next. So the other thing we want to do, we now know that we have this broadcasted message that we want to listen to, right? So we have connection.on, and with the angle brackets here, we can specify the parameter types that we expect to put in here. So this was a string because we only had that string message, right? And then we can say message received. So it's a little bit, you probably want to make some constant for this if you're sharing code, because this is now magic strings, because this refers to our chat hub here. This is this message received. And we have this one parameter, right, which is message. And if we would have another thing, which is an int, then this is 121, and you could say here, comma, int, and now it would expect two parameters, the first one being a string and the second one being an integer, right? So you can make all kinds of things for that, but let's not do that for now. I just want this message. So we have this message received, and then whenever that happens, you want to invoke some code. So I'm going to do this with this lambda expression, and I expect this message right here and invoke it like this. You can make a separate method from this if that's what you want. And I'm going to say chat messages.text plus is, so I'm just going to append the message to my chat messages label with a little new line so that it shows up nicely. So I'm going to say environment dot new line so that it works across all platforms, and I'm going to say message. So now it's going to do a new line and add the message. And what I'm going to do is well, I'm not going to do anything. This is it. So this is what we're going to print out here. And then what we want to do is actually connect to our hub. So now we've set up this method for whenever we get a message, whenever we get a ping, and now we actually want to connect to our hub, right? So because it's an async method, it's always a little bit hard to do that in the constructor. One of the ways to do it is task.run. I'm not sure if this is the best method, but it's a method. And we also want to do this on the main thread. And for .NET MAUI, you need to do that now through the dispatcher dot dispatch. And we can trigger a little code here. And we can say await connection dot start async. There we are. So that's what we want to do, and now our connection should be up and running as well. So if we run this, we should actually have messages coming in, but we're not really invoking anything to actually send messages, right? So let's do that as well. We're going to do that on the click of our button, and I'm going to say await. So we need to make this async. It does that automatically. Await connection dot invoke core async. And what we want to do is send message, right? So that's the method that we want to invoke. And the send message has to correspond with this send message right here. And then we want to specify that parameter. So we're going to say args So we have this arguments. I think that's the next parameter right here. So I don't need to specify it, but you can specify it like this, args. And I'm going to say new array, and this is just going to be a string, right? So we're going to say my chat message dot text. And now it's going to send that as a parameter. And it's going to invoke that, and then it should trigger that message received, and we should see this text come up here as well. What we also might want to do if we're going to send multiple messages is say my chat message, oh, this is an entry, yes, dot text is string.empty so that it resets automatically and we don't have all that. Now, what we want to do, actually, this is all we need to do for our functionality. Now, what you want to do is go back to that HTTP endpoint, because if you want to run this on Windows, basically all the platforms, there has been platform-specific ways to kind of like say you need to now explicitly allow applications to use HTTP, because typically you want to use HTTPS. So you really have to enable HTTP support basically for all the apps. I'm going to show you this on Android. So let me enable it for Android. You can also do it for iOS and Windows, but the process is a little bit different. So for Android, you can go to Platforms, Android, and you go to your Android manifest.xml. And here on the application node, you want to say Android and then clear uses clear text traffic. That's the one. And then you set that to true. And now it's enabled to use HTTP traffic. Now make note of this. Do not enable this on your production app. You don't want to do that. But for testing locally, that's definitely what you want to do. So now we have that in place. And actually, so for Windows, I think it works kind of out of the box. So for Windows, let me just run Windows first. We should see actually it come up. And our Windows application, and I actually deployed it to our Android emulator earlier. So let me just pull that up. And I have here the MAUI SignalR one. So, oh, actually, this is not going to work. I forgot a little step. So the server isn't running right now. So the Android app is going to crash probably because it's not going to be able to find the server. And the same thing for the Windows one, because our server isn't running. See, it started crashing because no connection could be made. The machine refused it. And our Android one is kind of funny that it's still running, but that shouldn't be able to find the server as well. What you can do is set both the .NET MAUI app and the server as startup projects. But what I'm going to do right now is right click on my little project, the server project right here, and you can go here to debug, and then you can just say start without debugging. I know that this code works, so I don't need any debugging here. And then you can see there will be a console window coming up that's actually going to start our little web application here. You can see it's listening now on the endpoints that I have configured. So this is running. We don't need to worry about that. Now, let me run the Windows project again, and then it should actually come up. So let's do that. And we can see that whenever we, oh, it actually says 404 not found. That is interesting. Ah, I know what's going on. So I didn't connect here to this /chat hub. So you need to specify the hub name, the endpoint that you're actually going to connect to the hub. Okay, so let's try again. I'm going to run this on my Windows machine. See, I make mistakes too. This is how we learn. And now you've seen me a little bit live debugging, and you know if you run into this, what is going on. So now it connects because, you know, it's not crashing, so it apparently connects. And I can just say hello, send that, and it comes here with the hello. It shows that in the label, right? So that's really cool. Now, if I start another instance of this SignalR app, then I can just click this again, and it will start another instance. And you can see that I can actually start chatting with myself. So I can say here, let me make this a little bit smaller, hello, ping, and you can see that it comes up here automatically, pong. And I did the console write line on the server as well, right? So if we inspect this little console window right here, you can see the hello and ping pong coming in here as well. Now let's see if this Android app can connect as well. And we can actually chat with the three of us now. So that's really cool. Now we have this ping pong, hello from Android. Click me, and you can see hello from Android is popping up as well. Hi there. See, so now we have this real-time connection set up between three ASP.NET clients. I could easily hook up a web client with JavaScript as well. And this is how to get started with SignalR and .NET MAUI. Okay, so a little struggle because I was not connecting to the right endpoint right there. But once that was set up, it was very easy to do this. Now, of course, you can add all kinds of things. You can add authorization because you don't want to just anyone connect to this endpoint and figure out reverse engineering what is going on here. You can add all this authorization and make sure that your users are authorized to actually call these endpoints. You can also then identify users, chat users. You can create chat applications with this, collaboration software, games with this. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff. Please let me know down in the comments if you have any questions or what follow-up videos you would like to see about SignalR and all the goodness that comes with it. Now, if you're interested in .NET MAUI more and you want to follow my channel, please make sure to like this video so that it spreads to more people. And there is a lot of other content here as well. Check out this playlist for all kinds of .NET MAUI goodness. Maybe you want to check out a little bit about plugins that we have right here, and make sure to click here to subscribe to my channel, and you will get all of this nice content on your feed automatically. See you for the next one.